All right, so I'm gonna do a I guess a little mini series regarding my microphone setup and the way I've been mixing recently. It's a little different than the past videos I've done. We're gonna start off with just going over the microphone, so I'll break it down into different videos. But this video is 100% gonna be talking about the microphones and letting you hear them raw. So I'm not going to run them through any analog gear, just what they sound like into my Apogee Symphony Mark Dose. So it's going to be basically just giving you a chance to hear the raw sounds, the preamps, the different settings that I have with my preamps and what they do. And throughout the process, you'll see like how I sum things, how I parallel compression, and the compression choices that I use in the signal path to get my final drum sound, at least for now, right? It's always changing, but this is going to be for the super nerds, and we're going to start out with, recently I've started from scratch, right? Like just really listening to the mics, the tuning, the room. I'll clap, hopefully not break the microphone, but you might hear a little bit of reverberation from the drums, but it's not dead in here, but it's calm. There's not a lot of reflections going on. The wood that we put in here, it's a hemlock and a red pine on top. It's kind of like over under, kind of displaces a lot of the sound and breaks it up, diffuses, I guess would be the right word. And these London acoustic panels I got from Sweetwater many moons ago do a little absorbing, I feel, of like the high end and some of those, like, I don't know, wonky reflections. If you are looking to do something with your room, I have no affiliation with them, but check out AudioMute. Back in the day, my studio in LA was all AudioMute blankets. I had like 4 of them layered up, and they were amazing. This is before Mitch really started doing his designer kind of thing. But if I were to do it again, I would definitely be getting his stuff. Mitch is a sweetheart from what I can tell, and his products are great, environmental friendly. They're really awesome. But, you know, use what we got. And it's not a big room, but it's big enough for what I need to do for now. I wish it was a bigger ceiling. But I kind of wanted just to give you guys a sense of a starting spot if you're doing this process of like, I want to get my sound really dialed in. I'm not a musical engineer. I'm not a professional, sound whatever. But just from many years of streaming, experimenting, and recording remotely, it's kind of what I've landed on. Now, this is going to be for a very open tuning. So this, if you were to do something like this on a dead kit, like with real thick heads and kind of real rock, this isn't the way, because you want a lot close mics on everything. But this is really revolving around the overhead, right? So like a jazz open kit tuning. Now, that is a stereo ribbon mic, an R88. And it's basically, if you know ribbon mics, they pick up figure of 8. Sorry, my voice is all going. It's allergy season here, so it's crazy. But 2 figure of 8s and an X and Y. So essentially, this microphone is picking up this way and right above it, like a big X, kind of like right behind, right over the kit. And one of the reasons I love that is because it creates a very nice center image for the snare and kick drum, right? Like whatever it's pointed at, those two pickup patterns are kind of combining, but in a very phase coherent way, as opposed to, I don't know, I've messed around with Space Pair and XLR and ORTF with different condenser microphones. In this room, I don't think there's enough space to really capture that vibe the way I like. But this is picking up a lot of the reflections, very nice. And ribbon mics, if you don't know about them, the CEO and the owner of AEA recently posted a couple weeks back on their Instagram. A ribbon microphone is like picking up like raw, like log footage if you're into photography. It's basically picking up a lot more information, and it's your job as a mix engineer or audio engineer to discern that, right? So ribbon microphones pick up low frequencies further away a lot better than condenser microphones. That proximity effect condenser microphones are definitely a little more clear, cleaner, brighter, a little more energetic. But if you're doing like just a one mic thing, or trying to have one mic capture the whole sound, what I found is with the microphones that I have here that are condensers, that low end is just gone. And then what I have to do is boost to get that. And I'm trying to go the route of not EQing or anything like that unless I really have to, because you start, phase shifting some of those frequencies and you can run into some issues with that. But so the R88, and I'm going through AEA RPQ 500 preamps, and I'll show you why. They have this thing called a curve gain, which you can select a frequency between, I believe it's 2500K all the way up to 30K, which you might think like, that's pretty nuts. But even though it's at 30K, it's kind of like the way it's shelved, right? So those preamps have this really neat thing where you're kind of boosting the high end, kind of bringing some air back into those ribbon mics who are usually pretty dull. So that's why I'm using that mic with those preamps. I just think, I don't know, it's a very nice picture of what I hear as a drummer. And if you'll look, it's not too far. If I sit down at the kit, it's pretty much, it's right by my head. And I have it angled to where it's my perspective. I do this for when I practice, when I stream. I want to hear it from my perspective and what my ears kind of hear naturally. I think ribbon mics pick that up really well. And I don't know, you get the low end, you get the kick, you get everything in the picture. I do have an SM57 on the snare going through a Burl B1, and I'll let you hear that, and I'll show you the gain settings. And I have a D12VR in the middle setting. So these are great microphones. It's kind of got this built-in thing where there's 3 settings. You can boost low, high, and cut mid, or you can just cut mid, or you can just cut mid and boost the lows. So right now I just have it kind of cutting out some of the mid muddiness. Probably don't even really need to do that. I honestly haven't checked since we've gotten this new kit, but it sounds good. And it's not really in the mix too much. You'd be surprised this ribbon mic is picking up a lot of that attack and the bass drum sound from this side, from the drummer's perspective. So this is just kind of filling it up a little bit. But I'll play a little bit, let you hear what these rooms sound like. There's no EQ, no compression, nothing on them yet. They're just raw. I want you to hear the reflections that the room is picking up, or the reflections that the mic are picking up from the room, I should say. And, just how important it is to focus on tuning and, room correction and all that stuff, proper mic placement, proper mic choice. Really think about what you want your sound to be like instead of just throwing up any old mic wherever and then processing it to all craziness to get the sound that you want. Because when you start pulling and pushing and, bending these frequencies, that's where phase starts to happen, and it gets ugly kind of quick. So trying to go the old school route of getting it right the first time. So yeah, I'll play with the RPQ 500. Remember I said that curve gain? I'll play with that off. So this is just the raw preamp sound, and then we'll turn that on. That is the only processing going on right now, is just that little bit of, it's quite a bit of curve gain actually. That might be the only like high-end EQ-ish thing going on in the mix. Besides maybe, some compression, coloration later on. So again, this video is going to be just so you can hear the unprocessed sound of the kit, the mics, and the preamps, what they're doing in the room. And it really shows off how bad the drummer is. But we'll start off with just the overheads, and so you can get a sense of them, what they sound like just with the preamps. Then I'll turn the curve gain on, and you'll really hear them just kind of, I don't know, like a breath of fresh air. And then, of course, I'll play a little bit on the snare so you can hear that solo and the kick drum. And yeah, we'll start from here. And next up in the series, we'll go into kind of summing everything together analogly with the Rupert Neve Designs. I think it's a 5059 satellite. It's a summing mixer, but it's basically takes everything and puts them all, you know, together. And then from there we'll talk about parallel processing and all that. So again, we'll start here. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I would love to talk about it. And yeah, without further ado, I'll play a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't suck, because we're going to use this throughout the whole process. All right, so that's unprocessed. And I'll make a little video of, you know, me showing the buttons that I push in there, but I'm gonna go turn on the curve gain and we'll go from there. So you can hear it like that. All right, curve gain is on. So again, everything's raw except for that. And again, it's a curve starting at 2500K and it slowly shelves up to, I believe, 30K. And I have it cranked, it's all the way. So it's doing a lot, but I feel like at the input stage with the preamp here, rather than applying different kinds of EQs later and really pulling on it, this is the input stage. So I feel like it's coloring it in a more natural way, even though we are affecting the signal. But I think it's doing it in a not as harsh way, and I think these preamps do it really well. They're built like AEA makes ribbon microphones. So these preamps, I feel like they work great with ribbons. They know what buttons to push to make them to sound good. So yeah, let's check it out. All right, now we'll do just the kick drum all by itself. All right, now just the snare drum. So yeah, I mean, the playing, ignore the playing, but just kind of hear like, it's going to be a full spread. So pan hard right and hard left with that overhead. I feel like with the figure of 8 in an XY, like it's just like, it's almost like Omni, but you're capturing so much, and to tighten that up, to combine those figure of 8s, I feel like you start to mishmash and get some weird phase issues, almost like monoing a signal out. That's another thing I think it sounds great in mono. in a, like I said, that center image, there's a line on this R88. I don't know if you can see it, but where those two combine, it creates this like really tight center image of wherever it's pointed. And if you know, snare and kick, if you keep that in there, it sounds pretty good in mono, and you still hear kind of like the cymbals and all that. So I just feel like the R88 is just, again, it's like a very natural sound. It picks up the low end and low mids just so nice. Tames kind of that harsh high end, especially in a small room like this. And using the curve gain on the preamps really allows me to be in control of how much of that I want and where to boost it. And I don't know if it's at 2500K. I could be very wrong. You probably will double check in the video. It might be around, I might be boosting around like 5K-ish. But anyway, you'll see in the video. I have to go look to the control room. But yeah, so the next video we'll talk about like how I sum all these together, and we'll talk about some parallel processing and what I do there, and how much of it I add, and what compression types I use. So yeah, please let me know what you think, or if you have any questions. So again, this is going to be a multi-video series, probably 3 or 4 videos all together of kind of how I get my sound. And we'll compare exactly what I just played here. We'll compare it as we add each thing. So, you know, we won't be playing 20 different kits or anything like that. That terrible performance will be the example throughout the whole process. So yeah, from here on out, we'll probably just be in the control room and all that stuff. But again, D12VR, you can see it's about a fist away from the kick drum, pretty much dead center. The 57, you might be thinking like, well, where's the placement? It's pretty much right over the rim, about an inch, you know, just pointed at the center of the drum, nothing crazy. Work the mic, find the spot that works for you in your room, because I honestly believe it's different everywhere, you know, mic placement and all that stuff. It's so room, player, and instrument dependent. So yeah, and the R88 is again kind of right above the kit. So if you make a V, it picks up pretty much. I use the 2 cymbal centers, and it's kind of getting a picture. Facing down, facing the angle of the ride, kind of how I play. You know, I'm usually, my ears are more down, listening a little bit, or slightly up. So it's picking up, you know, this, you know, and again, room dependent. You don't want it too close to the roof or too close to the ceiling, because it's picking up behind it. You'll get some weird reflections, a lot earlier reflections. You don't want it too low, because it'll be right in your way. So find out a sweet spot for you. And check it out. You can use any, like a 414 has a figure of 8 pattern. You could try doing that, put 2 together, figure of 8, and spin them, same kind of thing. Or yeah, if you have any ribbon mics or anything like that, if you want to try them. But yeah, this is kind of my, I don't know, of all the experimenting I've done recently, this is currently my favorite, and it's the most natural, and I think it's the most honest depiction of what I sound like in this room, or anyone that comes in here. So yeah, thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.